how to draw or type text in Adobe Illustrator. And so the first thing we're going to do is create like a document similar to what you would present in a poster. So I want you to click on print, then go down here to go and click on inches, and we're going to type in 68 by 42 or whatever size that you prefer for a poster size, and go and click on create. I'm just going to create a very rapid, quick template for a poster. I have another video where I go into detail. I'm going to click on rectangle. I'm going to go over here to the edge where it says intersect, go down here to the bottom. Okay, and I'm going to let's pick orange. And you can pick whatever you want, but just orange is going to be the title. And I'm going to go up to object, path, offset path, and we're going to type in -1 inch. Okay, that's going to create a smaller rectangle that is 1 inch on all sides, smaller. Okay, so I'm going to click on the selection tool. I'm going to delete that outside rectangle because it's creating an additional rectangle that's smaller. And then I'm going to reduce the size, so that's about like what you would see on the title. Let's increase the width. Okay, now I'm going to click another rectangle. I'm going to align it with, so I'm going to align it with the bottom edge of this rectangle and all the way till it intersects with the side. And I'm going to create a rectangle that's all the way down to the base. Do the same thing. Click object, path, offset path. It's going to keep the same settings. So I'm going to click OK. Click the selection tool, delete the outside object. This is kind of the body of the poster. So I'm going to click on this this rectangle here. Then we're going to divide it into the different columns. So I'm going to click on object, path, split into grid. Let's click on the preview. We're going to do 3 columns. Let's do a 1 inch cutter, which is just the width between each column. Click OK. So there, now we have the body. I'm going to highlight these 3 rectangles. Click no fill. Now I want to create my text on top of this this poster. So I don't want to modify these lines anymore. So I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to click on this layer button here. If you don't see that, go up to window, go down to layers. You'll have a window pop up. Just drag it over. Okay, and then we're going to go, so I'm going to click on this layer button, and then I'm going to click plus. It's going to add a layer on top of the previous layer. So I'm going to double click on this layer 2 here, and I'm going to type in text. And then I'm going to lock this layer 1. I'm just going to click on that little part of the screen, and that locks. Okay. So now I'm going to talk some of the details. So now we have the basic structure of a poster. If you want more details, I have another video about that. But now we're going to talk about the details about text. Okay, so let me zoom in here. I'm going to hold the Alt key and spin my mouse, the mouse wheel. And then I'm going to talk about, let me just click on the text, a little T here, and just click on the screen. And that creates a pretty small text, and it's 2 words of random letters. I'm going to change the font size to let's do 48. And some details about, and I'm just going to click on the selection tool. A lot of times when I'm typing, it's kind of almost reflex that I just click on the selection tool because that selects all the text that I previously typed. Okay, so some details about letters is it has a fill and an outline. So right now the fill is set to black. I can set it to red or to blue. And then there's an outline, which is the stroke, and so I can click on black and it adds a stroke along the outside, and I can increase or decrease that stroke. Okay, so some important, let's remove the stroke width, okay, stroke color. Okay, And let's change this back to black. Okay. Now, let's say I have a line here. Let's say it's a data line. Okay, it's like a graph, and I have it's a red line here. Okay. Now, a lot of times I may want to have this text to be the same color as that line. Now, one way to do that is use the eyedropper tool. So if I click on that text and I click I on my keyboard, you'll see a little eyedropper that pops up. And what the eyedropper does is it pulls the appearance values of the object that you click on, and it applies it to the object that you already had selected. So this object is going to change into the appearance values of this line. I just click on it. Now notice what happens. What it did is it changed the fill of the text to nothing, and it changed the outline of the text to red, the same color as this red. And that's because this line has a stroke width of red and no fill. Okay, so if I want to make this the same color but look like a normal text, I just switch this fill and stroke by clicking on this. So now this is the same text as that line. Okay. So now let's talk about a little more details about the different types of text objects. So this is a point type tool where I just clicked on the text and I pointed and I shoot. I just clicked on the canvas and it created some text. So I just clicked on there and I create some more text. Another type tool is I click on this T and I click and I drag and I define the boundaries of a text box. I create a text box, and there's a couple differences here. Okay, so whenever I click on the screen, let me just delete this. Whenever I use this sort of text where I just clicked on the screen and I double click and I start typing in some more text, what it does in the point type tool is it expands that text box as long as needed. And if I keep on typing, it would just keep on expanding this text all the way to infinity. If I wanted to return and create a second line, let me move this up a little bit so you can see. If I wanted to add a second line, I have to actually press enter and then add even more text. Okay, so that's the point type tool. The text area tool, on the other hand, will wrap the text accordingly. So if I were to delete some of that text and I want to add even more text, what happens is it goes all the way to the edge of that text box and then it wraps that text to the next line. If I keep typing, then it will go beyond the box. Okay, notice I couldn't see the rest of the text that I was typing here. Okay, so and you'll have this little plus sign that says that there's more text in this text box than can be displayed. So to show that, I just click on it and I expand it. Now you can see the additional text. There's also some other differences. If I were to click on this point type tool and I wanted to make it smaller, let's say I want to make it shorter, okay? Notice how whenever I change that, it squishes the text, okay? But it keeps the same font size up here. So that's something so I just Control Z to undo what I did. So this happens a lot where people want to make this text be a certain size, and so they kind of do this number to make it the same size. And that creates a very distorted text. It can be quite confusing. You have a whole lot of text that look just a little bit off. Sometimes it's very, difficult to spot when that happened. Like for instance, if it was like this, it's actually a little squished, but it might be difficult to tell. So I just Control Z to undo that. If you want to change the size of this text, there's two ways to do it. You can either just directly change the font size, or you can hold the Shift key and then drag, and that will keep the same aspect ratio on that text. Now, a text area tool where you clicked and you dragged and you defined the text box, I can now expand and contract that text box, and it will wrap the text accordingly. It will not change the shape of the letters at all. Okay, so those are the two main differences. Now, a text here, now there's a couple ways that I can use text. Of course, you can add a paragraph. You can also, let's make a signaling cascade. So I say protein 1. Okay. I'm going to click on the selection tool. Remember, that's kind of a default for me to click on the selection tool. Now I can copy this text by holding Alt, clicking and dragging, and I create a second protein. I say protein 2. Okay. And let's do another one, protein 3. Okay, so now I'm going to want to add arrows to each of these points. So I'm going to click on the line tool. I'm going to switch the fill with the stroke. And I'm going to go about centered, hold shift, and click downwards, hold shift, and then click and hold my mouse. So I'm holding shift while I'm holding the left mouse button. And we can create some arrows if we want. Click the Appearance tool. If you don't see the Appearance tool, go up to Windows, click on Appearance. Let's just add some arrows. Arrow. Okay. Now, whenever I do have something set up like this, I want to change the alignment of this text. I want to be center aligned. So if I click on this object, even though it's a point type tool, it has alignment. It has a align left, align center, align right. Well, in this case, I definitely want align center. And the reason why is I can center it, and then if I want to change this text, A, B, C, notice that it keeps on aligning that text with that arrow, okay, along the center line. Now, so let me just A, B, C, D, E, F, okay? Now let me do the same thing down to protein 2, which we know is still left aligned. Now if I type in A, B, C, D, E, F, this text is no longer aligned with the arrows. So kind of look ahead, think ahead whenever you're doing these texts, whether you want this text to be aligned in the center, or do you want it to be aligned on the left? Because it'll save you a lot of time if you change that alignment properly. And that's up here on the top. Now, if you don't see this, this bar up here on the top, go to Window and click on Control. Okay. Okay. So now you can change the just like anything else, you can change the font size, and you can actually see the effect. You can actually see that it's showing you a preview of that text. I kind of recommend Arial. That's always a good one. And Myriad Pro is kind of the Adobe Illustrator's version of Arial. It's not as widely known. You can change it. Now, some of the text have different properties. Not all of them do. If I were to click on Myriad Pro, it has regular italics and bold, whereas Arial has even more narrow bold, narrow italics. So some of these don't have bold at all. Some of them, so they all have specific modifiers to that text. Okay, the next thing is let's change some of the appearance of this text. So you can click on character. And there's a lot of things you can do here. You can make a subscript or superscript. So let's say I didn't want this to be protein. I want it to be calcium 2+. I want to make this a superscript. I just highlight that, click on character, and then go click superscript. Now if I want a subscript, I can click on this as well. So these are kind of very handy. I can change all sorts of properties on this text. I can rotate the text. Notice that I'm only rotating the text that I've highlighted. Okay, so keep that in mind. You can have different, notice I add this as a superscript, and it didn't modify the first two letters, so it's only going to modify what I have highlighted. Okay, now if I want to change all the text, I just click on the selection tool and it highlights that whole text box. And then now I can change everything in this text box. I can add it, I can make it bold, whatever. Okay, I can also change the distance between the letters. Okay, so you can see, maybe if I do 50, you can see that that won't even be 100. So you can see that the width of the text, 200. Oh no, not that. Typed on the wrong thing. 200. Okay, you can see I can change the spacing of that text. Let's see. So 0 is the default. You can also change. So let's say I have, second messenger. And I line this up. Notice I can have that magenta to align it properly. And I can change the distance between these two lines. First thing, I might want to make this text smaller. Highlight this bottom one, maybe make it 24. Okay. And I can change the distance between these two lines by clicking on character, and I can expand it. Now notice what happens is this is now a defined width, a distance between these two lines, rather than auto. So if I have it this way and I change the size of the text, it may cause overlapping issues. So just keep that in mind whenever you change this property. Okay. You can also change the case, just like many of the other text editor softwares. You can go up to type, down to change case, change it to uppercase. You can change it to title case, that sort of thing. The type, if you want to add a glyph, like say you wanted, micromolar, so go up to type and click on glyph, and you can add, a glyph there. You can add, the micro, the Greek text for micro here. Probably better would be to change the font to symbol, and just click on M, and then change that to Arial, and then Molar. Now, what you want to keep in mind is, now when you have a whole bunch of different text properties in here, in a single text object, if you change things, then it'll change it for everything. So for instance, if I were to change this to 36, notice that all of the text has changed to 36. If I were to change the font to, let's say I wanted Verdana, then notice that M is no longer in symbol font. So just be a little careful whenever you have multiple text things, that whenever multiple text types and properties for each of the individual letters, even superscript won't carry over for many things. So I still encourage you to do this because it looks nice and it can be convenient. Just keep in mind, if you change things, just make sure that you're proofing your work to make sure some of the important things aren't being changed. Okay, so that's kind of how to make a pathway. Let's move on to other types of text. Let's move to the text area tool. So let's say I want to create kind of an introductory paragraph. So I'm going to click over here to the left, drag it down, and an introductory paragraph. Now notice it's keeping the font size that I had before. I want it actually to be left aligned. Really what I want is to be justified. So I'm going to click paragraph, justified to the left. And we have multiple, it has several paragraphs here. Let's just make one paragraph. just for right now. Okay. So we still have some more paragraphs. Okay. Okay, so now we want to increase the font size, maybe to 48. Now, again, you have this plus sign saying that there's text outside. I'm just going to delete so that I get rid of that. Okay. Now, look at the text height. We don't want it that way. We want it to be auto. Okay. Okay, so what's this is an important thing. So I was a little confused, but the important thing is look what happened. Why is there such a separation between the text? That's because I am in superscript mode. That happens a lot. You'll find that whenever you just previously modify some text and add it to superscript mode, the next text that you add is going to be in superscript mode. So be very careful whenever you're modifying superscript and subscript, because it can be a problem. Okay, so here's the text. Now let's say I want to make it have an indentation. Well, first thing I want to do is I want to add a margin. So probably what you're going to have is you're going to have the first, let's unlock the first layer. Okay. I'm going to drag this up. So chances are you're going to have something that looks like that for your introductory paragraph. Now you obviously don't want your text to go right up to the line, so I'm going to first change this to be the size of that line. But I want to add some little spacing, and I want to add some margins here. So I'm going to click on the area type tool, and then I'm going to click on the inset spacing, 0.5 inches. That's going to add me a little bit of a space. Now you see that plus sign because I have more text that's on the outside. Let's delete a little bit. Okay. Now, maybe I want an indentation on the first line. I go up to paragraph and I click up here to add an indentation on the first line. Okay, and it'll wrap accordingly. Now, if you want it to be 1 inch, you would type 72. Half an inch to be half of that, which is 36. That's one way of doing it. Another way is just to use the tab key. So I'm going to delete this to 0. So I clicked on paragraph and I'm going to remove that first line indent. And I can just click the tab. So click on the first line, click tab. If you don't like how that tab looks, you can modify the tabs by going up to window, going down to type, and then click tabs, and you'll see there's another window that pops up here. Okay, and you want to try not to move it too much, because when it pops up, it aligns with your text. So that's very convenient. And you can add another tab. So let's say something like this. Now look what happened. Whenever I clicked here, it modified that first tab, but now it's a little bit beyond. Well, what it is, it's a ½ inch beyond this tab. Remember, we added a ½ inch margin. So this tab doesn't take into account that first margin, which is kind of strange. It really should, but it doesn't. So you have to add, so keep in mind that you have to add that ½ inch. So I clicked on there, and I can move this accordingly, and notice that it wraps the text accordingly. I can define that exact property right here. So I can type in 1. That's going to make it a 1 inch tab. Okay. So that's just the tab. Now it will keep that tab, so if I press enter and then tab, it's going to align with that first paragraph. Okay, so let's add some additional paragraphs here. So let me just copy and paste this paragraph. Okay, so now we have 2 paragraphs here, And I want to add some spacing between the paragraphs. Let me delete some more text so that I can accommodate that spacing. Let me click the selection tool so I make sure that I'm selecting the entire text box. We can go ahead and remove this. Keep in mind that I can add a center justified, right justified, or other sort of tabs. That's something to play around with. Typically you're going to use a left justified. So let's cancel out of that. Now I want to add some spacing between these two paragraphs. So I'm going to go up to paragraph, and right here you say space before paragraph and then space after paragraph. Probably want to change this space after, and we can change this to 24. So that inserts some spacing between each paragraph. Okay, so let's see. I think we've you can add spacings along. You can add an indention on either side. We're going to talk a little bit about that when we do bulleted text. You can also add multiple columns. So if I click on area type tool, I can then add additional columns. So I've added 2 columns there, or 3 columns. It looks kind of strange now because the text is large, but certainly works. You can even add rows as well. This is good for, this is also, well, we won't get into that. So let's, another thing is you can center align text. So let's say in the type area you can vertically align center. So I want to create a title for this poster. So I'm going to click on the text tool. I'm going to use the area type. So I'm going to click and drag and then release. So I've created some text. All right, and now if you just start typing, it's going to delete all the random text. So this is a really good poster. That's the title. Wonderful title. Okay, so now I want to center align this. So first thing I'm going to do is click center so it aligns it in the center. And then I'm going to click over here to so these 3 lines, click the down arrow, click center, so now it puts it right in the center. Let's change the font size to, I need something more than 72, so 105. Okay. And, you know, that's center aligned. And notice that if I add maybe the authors, you know, Curtis, Nephew, Jane Doe, John Smith, it adds the authors there. And you can of course change the font size to, maybe you want to go 72 maybe, and then go up to type and click change case, uppercase, and so there's the title of the poster. Okay. Now you might want to create a bulleted list, like maybe on the conclusion. So let me click over to layers, unlock the layers, remove this down. So this might be the concluding paragraph right here. A lot of people make bulleted points for the concluding paragraph. So let's do the text area tool. I'm going to change this to left align. Let's see if I change the character here. The font size, 72 is a little bit big. Let's make it 48. Really, you want it to be the same font size as the other. But now notice I have this little pencil tool with the cancel sign. That's because I'm selected on the locked layer. Well, I want to click on the text layer. So I'm going to go up to that top anchor, then down to the bottom. Okay, so let's add some more. Let's add a bulleted point now. Let me just delete some of these for multiple text here. Okay, so here's 3 bulleted. This is three text that I want to add as a bulleted point. Okay, so let's click the first thing I want to do is add the bullet. So I'm going to go all the way to the left of that text, and I'm going to go up to type and glyph. And then down here, about right here, you'll see this dot. That's the a bullet point. I'm gonna add another here. Add another here. Okay, and we're gonna add some tabs here. Okay. Now we want to add the margins, so we're going to click on the area type tool to 0.5. Okay. And we want this to be aligned. Now, okay, first let's make the text. Let's add the text, the tab. Type. So I'm going to go to Windows, Type, Tab, and I'm going to add a tab. And I'm going to move this, according to how I want it. And I want this bottom text here to be aligned with the L's along here. So to do that, I'm going to cancel out of this, go up to paragraph, and I'm going to change the first line and the back line. Actually, let me go back here to the tab, type, tab, and I want to make this to be 1 inch exactly. Okay. That way I know, and I know 1 inch is 72 points. So that gives me an idea of how I want to change these these dimensions on the paragraph. So the first thing I want to do is I want to put 72 inches here. Okay, that's going to bring everything over to the left, which is basically going to bring all the bottom text to the right alignment, the correct alignment. Now I want to move those top lines back. So that's everything to the left. Now I want to do the first line indent. I want to type in -72. Okay. So now it's perfectly aligned. And so if I, type in and press enter, I type in a new line. And I go up to type, glyph, click on that, and then a tab, and another bullet point. Okay, and it's going to align everything. Everything will be aligned properly and will go to the right point. Okay, so everything is aligned. I can add additional text. Now another really cool thing is I can save this. If I do posters in the future, I can save this paragraph style. So I added a paragraph button here. You can do that by going up to Window, go down to Type, and just click on this. It's going to open up a window and drag it over to the right. Actually, I clicked on paragraph style, and that dragged that over to the right. So I'm going to click on this. While I have this text selected, because I might want to do bullets in the future for a poster, and I just click this plus sign, and it will add that paragraph style. I can double click and I say bullet points, poster. Okay. And that's going to save that that style. So if I create another text box, okay, I can click on this, and it will add that same properties. Now it already had the previous properties because I was previously messing with this, and you say, "Well, that's not right because I have this little." Doesn't look exactly like this text below. Keep in mind, I haven't added the bullet point. So if I add the bullet point, okay, and then I need to add the tab. And now it looks exactly like the text below. Also, I need to change the margin, 0.5. Okay, and there you go. And so it's a nice thing to save that that paragraph style. Now, if I save this file, okay, if I save this file, this untitled 4, that's fine. Let's do new poster. Say okay. Now if I click on another poster, say I wanted to add that new bullet point, when I say I'm now working on this new poster and I want to pull the paragraph style from the previous poster, I can just go down and click on this paragraph style and click on these 3 lines up here and click load paragraph styles. Then I go back to that document. So of course it'll be a different place for you. And new poster, click on that and see it added that bullet points, that paragraph style. So I can add a text box here and click bullet points poster, and it applies that same property. So that's really cool. Okay, so that's pretty much kind of the basics of text editing in Adobe Illustrator. I have some other videos where you can make really fancy text.